A samurai's katana was forged from folded steel, hardened along a curved, single edge. Swordsmiths folded the steel thousands of times to remove impurities and strengthen it. A skilled smith could spend weeks shaping and tempering a single blade. The blade's gentle curve let a warrior draw and cut in one fluid motion. Samurai wore it tucked through their belt, edge facing upward for a fast draw. That upward-facing draw let a warrior cut an opponent the instant the blade left its sheath. A shorter companion sword was carried alongside it for close quarters or indoor use. Together, the two swords marked a samurai's rank and right to bear arms. Samurai trained for years just to master a clean, controlled draw and strike. A single, well-placed cut could end a duel before a second blow was needed. Warriors practiced cutting rolled straw mats to test their blade and their technique. A dull or poorly made blade could fail a warrior in the middle of combat. Peacetime samurai still wore it daily as a symbol of status and honor. Losing or damaging the family sword brought deep shame to a samurai's household. Some blades were passed down through generations as treasured family heirlooms. A master swordsmith's signature on the blade could make it worth a fortune. When Japan modernized, new laws eventually banned samurai from carrying it in public. Many warriors surrendered their swords as the age of the samurai came to an end. Museums and collectors today preserve surviving blades as priceless historical art. A weapon once feared on the battlefield became one of the most admired blades in the world. Alongside the katana, a samurai carried a shorter sword called a wakizashi. Its blade measured about half the length of a full-sized katana. Together, the two swords were known as the daisho, meaning big and small. Only samurai were permitted to wear both swords at the same time. The samurai wore the wakizashi even indoors, where the longer sword was set aside. Etiquette required visitors to leave their long sword at the door, but not this one. That made it a samurai's last line of personal defense in someone else's home. Its shorter blade suited quick, close-range strikes in tight spaces. Warriors sometimes used it for finishing an opponent after a longer weapon failed. Craftsmen matched its fittings to the katana, creating a coordinated matched pair. A samurai often commissioned both blades from the same swordsmith for consistency. Some warriors carried it alone when traveling light or in disguise. It doubled as a practical tool for everyday tasks around the household. In formal ritual suicide, a samurai used a similar short blade to preserve honor. That grim association gave the short sword a serious, weighty, symbolic role. Merchants and travelers sometimes carried a plainer version for self-defense on the road. Its compact size made it easier to conceal under everyday clothing. When the samurai class was abolished, this smaller sword often survived where the katana did not. Its modest size made it easier for families to keep quietly hidden after the ban. A samurai's second blade, once just a backup, is now a valued piece of history on its own. A tanto was a small dagger samurai carried for close combat and backup defense. Its blade measured under a foot, small enough to conceal easily. Warriors used it when grappling too close for a full-length sword. Its point excelled at finding gaps in an opponent's armor. Some samurai carried two, one visible and one hidden as a last resort. Women in samurai households often carried a smaller version for self-defense. That version was tucked into a sash or hidden sleeve for quick access. A bride sometimes received one as a wedding gift, symbolizing self-reliance. Monks and travelers also carried plainer versions for practical, everyday use. Its compact size made it useful for cutting rope, food, or supplies. Craftsmen decorated fine examples with elaborate metalwork on the guard and fittings. A wealthy samurai might own several, each for a different formal occasion. Some were mounted purely for display, never meant to be drawn in anger. Others were battle-worn tools, scarred from years of hard practical use. In desperate close-quarters combat, it often decided a fight in seconds. Warriors trained specifically in grappling techniques built around this short blade. As formal sword-carrying declined, the tanto persisted longer as a practical utility knife. Its plain, functional design let it blend easily into everyday civilian life. Collectors today distinguish ornate ceremonial versions from plain combat-worn examples. A small blade built for desperate moments became a respected art form in its own right. A naginata paired a long wooden shaft with a curved blade at one end. Its reach let a warrior strike an enemy well before swords could close the distance. Foot soldiers used its length to counter mounted warriors charging on horseback. A well-timed sweep could cut a horse's legs out from under its rider. Warrior monks trained extensively with it to defend their temple grounds. Women of samurai households were often trained specifically in this weapon. It let a smaller or lighter defender hold off a larger armed attacker. Many wives kept one mounted prominently near the entrance of their home. A defender could keep an intruder at a distance using its long reach. Its wide, sweeping arc worked well against multiple attackers in open space. On a crowded battlefield, that same length became harder to maneuver in close quarters. As battles grew denser and more chaotic, shorter weapons often proved more practical. Skilled users still valued the sheer intimidating range it offered a defender. Blacksmiths crafted its blade using techniques similar to sword-making itself. A damaged or dull blade could be removed and replaced on the same shaft. That interchangeable design let one shaft outlast several individual blades over time. As firearms spread across Japan, its battlefield role gradually declined. It survived longest as a defensive weapon taught within the home rather than the army. Modern martial arts schools still teach its forms as a discipline in their own right. A battlefield weapon built for reach became a lasting symbol of home defense and discipline. A Yari paired a long, straight shaft with a narrow, straight double-edged blade. Unlike the curved Naginata, its blade thrust straight forward rather than slicing in an arc. Foot soldiers massed in tight ranks, presenting a wall of spear points to the enemy. That formation let untrained conscripts fight effectively alongside skilled samurai. A long spear let a rear rank strike over the shoulders of soldiers ahead. Some variants added small side blades to hook or trap an opponent's weapon. Mounted samurai also carried a shorter version suited for use on horseback. Its straightforward, thrusting design made it far faster to train new soldiers on than a sword. Mass-produced spears armed entire peasant armies during Japan's largest civil wars. A famous general once armored an entire unit purely with matching long spears. That unit's disciplined spear wall became feared across rival provinces. Skilled spearmen could outreach and outmaneuver a lone swordsman in open combat. In a crowded melee, its length sometimes worked against a solitary user. Blacksmiths produced spearheads in far greater numbers than ornate sword blades. A basic spearhead cost a fraction of what a fine sword blade demanded. That low cost let commanders equip vast numbers of foot soldiers quickly. As castle sieges grew common, shorter spears proved useful in narrow corridors. When firearms arrived, spear ranks were adapted to fight alongside early gunners. Eventually, muskets replaced most spear formations on Japan's battlefields entirely. A humble, mass-produced weapon once decided entire wars fought across feudal Japan. The yumi was an unusually tall bow, often taller than the archer who used it. Its grip sat far below center, an asymmetrical design unlike most bows worldwide. That off-center grip let it be fired easily from horseback at a gallop. Mounted archers trained for years to shoot accurately while riding at full speed. Foot archers used the same tall bow, planting themselves in a firm, wide stance. Layered bamboo and wood gave the bow both flexibility and considerable power. Crafting one properly could take a skilled bowyer well over a year. Arrows tipped with different heads served different battlefield purposes. Some arrowheads pierced armor, while others were built to whistle loudly in flight. That whistling arrow signaled the start of a battle, rather than causing injury. Skilled archers could loose several precise arrows within a matter of seconds. Archery ranked among the most respected skills a samurai could master. Mounted archery contests let warriors test their skill outside actual combat. Riders galloped past a row of targets, firing at full speed without stopping. As battles grew larger, massed volleys of arrows softened enemy lines before melee. A well-timed volley could break an advancing formation before swords ever met. When firearms arrived, their range and power gradually overshadowed the bow's role. Even so, archery retained deep ceremonial and spiritual importance in Japanese culture. Shrine ceremonies and New Year traditions still feature ritual archery today. A weapon, once central to war, became a respected path of discipline and tradition. A kanabo was a massive, iron-studded club, far heavier than any bladed weapon. Its thick, striking end was covered in raised iron studs or spikes. A swing from it could crush armor rather than cut through it. Only exceptionally strong warriors could wield its full weight effectively in battle. Legendary folklore heroes and demons were often depicted carrying this massive weapon. That association gave the club a fearsome, almost supernatural reputation in stories. Against heavily armored opponents, blunt force sometimes worked better than a blade. A solid strike could break bones even through thick armor plating. Its sheer weight made it slow and difficult to swing repeatedly in combat. A skilled user relied on timing rather than speed to land a blow. Temple guardians and legendary warriors were often depicted carrying an oversized version. That larger version emphasized raw, intimidating size over practical battlefield use. Real battlefield versions were somewhat smaller and more manageable than legendary depictions. Blacksmiths reinforced the club's core with iron to prevent it from splitting. Some versions used solid iron instead of wood for even greater weight. That all-iron version required tremendous physical strength just to lift and swing. As armor grew lighter, purely blunt weapons became somewhat less essential in battle. It remained popular in folklore and theater long after its battlefield use faded. Traditional performances still depict legendary figures wielding an oversized version on stage. A crude, brutal weapon became one of the most memorable images in Japanese folklore. Smaller, specialized weapons rounded out a warrior's arsenal beyond the sword and spear. Flat throwing blades called shuriken were used to distract or wound at a distance. A well-thrown one could startle an opponent just long enough to close the gap. They came in many shapes, from simple spikes to star-shaped throwing blades. Ninja and scouts favored them for quick, silent, close-range distraction. A kusarigama paired a short sickle blade with a weighted chain on the other end. A skilled user could swing the chain to entangle an opponent's weapon or limbs. Once entangled, the sickle blade delivered a quick follow-up strike. That combination made it effective against a single-armed opponent in close combat. Its unusual design required years of specialized training most warriors never pursued. Farmers' tools like sickles and flails sometimes doubled as improvised weapons in a pinch. Ordinary villagers occasionally defended themselves with whatever tool was close at hand. Each weapon in a samurai's arsenal suited a different range and situation. A spear and bow controlled distance, while a sword and dagger controlled close combat. Together, that full arsenal reflected centuries of adapting to Japan's changing wars. When Japan modernized, the entire samurai class and its weapons were formally abolished. Many warriors surrendered their swords, and an entire military tradition quietly ended. Martial arts schools preserved the movements and forms long after the battles stopped. Today, films, museums, and martial arts keep this entire weapon tradition alive worldwide. From a curved sword to a humble farmer's sickle, every blade told part of one long story.